Hello there, and welcome back to my little bit of Mexico. When I first arrived here, many moons ago, in 2005, actually 2004, as it was the new year, uh, you kind of spend a lot of time in immigration. It feels like you're a resident in the place. I mean, it's like 2 years I spent going here and there to immigration to get my various documents. And once your tourist visa has expired, and this is one of those things with many Americans who live in San Miguel de Allende or Ajijic in Jalisco, they don't follow the rules. They stay on their tourist visa, winging it and hoping that they will never be found. But I followed the correct route, as you do. And I got my first working visa. I think that was FM3. I think it was FM3, I think it's called. Which allows you to work and you're a kind of resident. And then later you get your FM2. I don't really know what the difference is. And you seem to feel as though you're spending most of your life at the immigration office. In the beginning, when I arrived on these shores, the immigration office was like a converted house somewhere in San Jeronimo, I think it was. And you could never tell what your immigration status was, whether your visa has been processed or was in the middle of being processed. Thankfully, I had a lovely lady from UANL who dealt with my immigration status. And she did a sterling job. I'm very happy to have somebody who did that for me. Later, I decided to do it myself. And the immigration office had moved away from San Jeronimo to a purpose-built immigration office. Very fancy place over on Lázaro Cárdenas, close to San Pedro. And in the beginning, everything wasn't digital. If you needed to know if your visa had been processed, you had to drive from here in Guadalupe all the way over to the office in San Pedro, more or less, to then find out, oh no, it hadn't been processed, and then come all the way home in a rather disappointed way. Then they went digital, and you could find out via the click of a mouse or the keyboard if your visa or anything else was ready. And it would tell you all the things that you needed to hand to the person at the counter in immigration. Even though it was all digital, there was still always little obstacles, I should say. I always remember going to the offices over on Lázaro Cárdenas, and you have to queue up. You line up at the desk to be processed, to be told which window, which person you need to see. And I always remember that in front of me was, I think it was a Catholic priest. And he went and presented his documents. And the guy at the counter said, sorry, senor, but your visa has expired. To which the priest said, so what do I do? And this is a great way of understanding the Mexican psyche. And rather than say, sorry, you're going to jail, as the Americans probably would because they have overstayed a tourist visa. So he was not taken away in handcuffs. They simply said, well, let's suggest that you head over the border and then come back, get a tourist visa, and come back when you have it. And then we'll process your application. Interesting. And I always remember another stage when I was almost ready for my final visa, when I would no longer have to go back and visit immigration ever again. Hurrah. And I checked what I needed to take with me to the immigration office from what they sent to me via email. So I took the documents necessary, went to the immigration place, went to the counter, handed over my documents, and the guy behind the counter said, "Photos? I'm sorry? ¿Dónde están sus fotos? Where are your photos?" Obviously for the visa. But according to the things you sent, I don't need to bring a photo. Necesito fotos. But it doesn't say I have to bring photos. Necesito fotos. You can't argue with officialdom sometimes. So I had to leave the counter, head down to a place below, which thankfully takes photos. There's a whole industry linked to the immigration office close by. Immigration lawyers, places for copies of documents and so on. So I got my photo taken, returned, back into the line to be processed, back to the counter, presented my documents and those photos, which I didn't think I needed to hand out. And then I was processed and all was well in the world. Mexican officialdom really does frustrate. I always remember a funny thing that I noticed while I was at one of the desks. I can't remember what it was that I was getting done at immigration, but there was a Chinese lady with one official, and he was asking her some things. And I think he asked her, "Do you have a tax document?" And she said, "I don't pay tax." That is not something you say to a government official, as far as I know. What happened after that, I don't know, because I was too concerned with what was happening. Anyway, I received my final resident permit. I am now a permanent resident of Mexico, and I have a card to prove it. There's no date that says when it expires, so I've never had to return to immigration ever again. Whoopee. It is a great way of knowing how Mexican officialdom actually operates. And it's incredible how or who you see in immigration. It's incredible that you see so many Mormons getting their residency. I don't know why. Why so many Mormons? I don't know. But yeah, you get to know people and you realize that you're not the only person who is frustrated by the Mexican immigration system. Yeah, I've seen Argentinians, French, Germans, and many others just frustrated and scratching and pulling out their hair due to that wonderful thing called immigration and the immigration officers. There you go. Another tale of those times I've spent over the many years here in Monterey. Thank you for watching. Please, if you've enjoyed my little ramble about my times in immigration, please like and subscribe. Down at the bottom, you will find the buttons to click on. Do subscribe and like. And if you're a member of the community, please like and subscribe. If you happen to be a non-Mexican who now lives here in Mexico, what has been your experience in immigration? I'd like to hear. So when you reflect on it, you think of, well, it's kind of a funny tale, as I've had many a time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you soon.